I'm standing in the vegetable garden at Perch Hill, and it's a really beautiful, beautiful winter's day in December, and I'm going to make a Christmas wreath to go on my door. And the first thing that I've got is this wreath base, and it's a 12-inch wreath base, and it's basically just 2 copper bands with bridges, which makes it a bit stronger. The bridges make it strong. And what I do to start with, the first thing is to get a good handful of moss all the way around your base, and that then allows you to add things into it. So that's exactly what I've got here. Now the other thing that I've already done, in fact, is to add a bit of stub wire, and that's stub wire. You can see it against the grey of my shirt, and I've just attached that to the back of the base, and I've put a big bit of quite bright and brassy ribbon so I don't lose it, because otherwise once you've got everything in, it can be quite difficult to find that. And also if you do it at this stage, it's much easier than when it's really packed full of fruit. You can use any twigs from your garden, it doesn't really matter, but the advantage of silver birch is that it pops, well, in this part of the world anyway, it's a very common tree. It's one of the first colonisers of waste ground, and so you don't have to feel bad cutting it down, because it's almost like a weed, really. And the other thing is it's pliable, so you can really bend it. It's not quite as pliable as willow, but it is still quite bendy. And then I go around a bit more. So wherever you think it sort of is looking a bit bare, like at the top there, I'm just going to do it stem by stem now. So the purpose of this silver birch is to really strengthen the wreath base, because I'm going to add loads of quite heavy things. I'm going to try pomegranates on this one. I haven't done one of those before, but I'm really in love with pomegranates at the moment. They're incredibly healthy to eat, but they're really beautiful and long-lasting. Let's now move on to looking at the wiring of the fruit. And I thought it would take too long if I did all of it in front of you, so I've started doing some already, and I'm going to use cranberries as one of my ingredients because they're so Christmassy and typical of this time of year, which is nice, and exceptionally long-lasting. The things you want to use on your Christmas wreaths are, when you're sort of looking into your salad bowl, or not your salad bowl, sorry, your fruit bowl, it's the things that just go on and on and on. So apples are pretty good, citrus fruits are all brilliant, limes, kumquats, tight-skinned clementines, that kind of thing, they all last really well. Chilies, of course, are fabulous, they last almost forever. If you're going to do chilies, then you need to wire them very carefully, of course, and wear gloves and not rub your eyes and things. Cranberries, I've already said. Pomegranates last incredibly well. We use plums, and particularly at this time of year they don't seem to rot very quickly. We have used aubergines actually on wreaths, the mini aubergines, and they look really nice and last pretty well. So I've got my wiring done on those, so it's literally like beads onto a chain, as you saw me do. And so now I'm going to show you how to wire a lime, and these are very easy, but they're quite heavy. And so I just want to show you the different grades of wire. This is the one I use for the cranberries, which you can see is thinner, and about twice the thickness is the one I'm going to use for the lime. And you hold it like that. I'm going to wire at that end, so I've got the pointy bit that end. And about a third of the way down the fruit, quarter to a third, not half though, you go across the fruit with it almost at sort of right angles, and you get to about a third above and 2/3 below, and then you bend the wire like that, and you've got a fake stem, and then you bend it down like that, and then twiddle it on. Like that. And so it's got a fake stem, And that means I can add it into the wreath base very easily and then bend the wire around, but I'll show you that in a minute. Now pomegranate you want to do in a different way, and you do need 2 wires for this. And the first wire you just simply add straight up the middle of the fruit, like that, to about 1/3 or half the way up the fruit. And then the second one you go crossways like that at a right angle, just like the lime, but you go halfway, so you've got a proper T-junction, like that. And then you do exactly the same, trying not to rip the flesh, just like you did with the lime, but you've got even greater strength with this. And then similarly round. Now that needs to be as tight as you can onto this bit of wire, so that it will secure it in the fruit. And so there you have your pomegranate wired. Now how I chose the things that I'm putting into my wreath base is how I choose the ingredients to a flower arrangement. It's exactly the same. And I do stick to this recipe because it's just such an easy and reliable recipe. So the first thing is that if I'm making a hand-tied bunch or a big vase of flowers or a wreath, I use 3 foliage. And in this, I am going to use this, which you'll see, which is Viburnum laurustinus. I'm going to use a bit of rosemary, and I'm probably going to use a bit of eucalyptus. So those are my 3 foliage, although of course I've got silver birch and moss as well. But then the really important thing is, when I'm making a mixed arrangement, I always use 3 coloured ingredients, the sort of equivalent of flowers in a hand-tied bunch. And in a wreath I do as well. So my bride in this Christmas door wreath is going to be the pomegranate, the great sort of sumptuous socket to you point, really, of the whole thing. And she, of course, the pomegranate, is, if you get red ones, is red. I mean, you can get kind of yellowy, not aubergine, sort of mushroomy coloured ones, beigey coloured ones, but so you really want to look at the red ones. So that's my bride, and then I always use a bridesmaid to back up the same colour as the bride, and so rather than contrast I go for harmony. And so with my red pomegranate I've gone for my even redder and lovely luscious dark coloured cranberries, because those are kind of harmonious. And then I've gone for a gatecrasher, which is a colour contrast. So I've got my bride, my bridesmaid and my gatecrasher, and that's exactly what I would do with a hand-tied bunch. So the first thing I'm going to add is my bride, my pomegranate, and so she is going in at 12 o'clock. And I just always don't pull, because you'll probably pull that main stem out. You just push it in as hard as you can, and then you'll see that her main stem, the pomegranate's main stem, will come out the other end. And so then I just want to loop that into the wire, and that's the whole point, is it will hold it. Right. I'm actually going to start supporting this with some lines underneath before I add the final, the final pomegranate, because this will help. So if I just wedge that line below, again just bind it in. And these add a really good twist and turn, that's the point of them, because the others are very sort of pert and potentially a bit formal. So by adding this it makes it more interesting visually. So there's the end, just bend it. Great. Probably do 3 chains per group. Right, okay, so that added. Now it's the sort of quicker bit really, I'll come back to possibly more fruit at the end, but what I'm going to do now is add some twigs. And with rosemary, what you want to do, it's actually better with finer stemmed, you just cut it like that. So you go into where you've got a branch and then just snip it. And you should then just literally be able to poke that into your structure. And it gives it a nice sort of shagginess. And similarly with my other foliage, I'm going to use Viburnum tinus, and you just poke it in. Now I'm going to go in that direction because that's the way the twigs have gone, and so this is relatively quick. And I don't want to totally cover the twigs because I like them, but I obviously want to get the heights at the right level. I like things messy and relaxed, and so I will be adding them slightly longer than some people. If you're a very neat person, you'll actually probably want to cut these a little bit shorter and tidier. And this is where you see the importance of the moss, because the moss is damp and I can mist it with a ironing mister, you know, a water atomizer, and that will then keep the fruit from completely drying out and keep it all looking healthy and fresh right the way through till Christmas. And it's obviously hugely important that it's outside on a door if you want real longevity. If you want to make a table wreath, obviously it will dry out much more quickly, it won't last so well, whereas outside on the door it's jolly nippy. And actually it's rather sweet. What we find in January is, you know, at the beginning of January, if it's still on your door, you'll find that the robins come and eat all the berries, particularly if you use apples. So it becomes rather nice sort of natural bird food after Christmas. So the moss will be enough to, damp moss, to keep these stems of foliage alive in the cool. You just want to hang it somewhere really, and just check you're happy with it. So I am happy with it, but I can still see a bit of wire in places like this. So it's really important to hang it up, because now I can see that it's nice, but it's a bit uneven, and I really need to put something more weighty in here. And so I'm going to add one more pomegranate here, and I think probably another pomegranate just in here. I'll see, but I'm going to put one there, but I don't like four, so it'll either be here or here. Just needs to be balanced up, but I can do that while it's hanging. So it's interesting because I've not used pomegranates before apart from on a table wreath, and actually on a door wreath, because they're so heavy, they are really weighting it down quite a lot, and they're kind of hanging off their wires a bit. So I'm going to add a third ingredient, which is really, or fourth really, which is going to help me, which is I've dried some hydrangea from early in the year, and quite a lot of people have hydrangea in their gardens, so I'm hoping quite a lot of you might have some hydrangea, and this really helps to balance the heaviness of the hydrangea in a good way. I mean, the heaviness of the pomegranate, sorry, in a good way, I think. And I can just ease those into the structure. Yeah, and it's now sort of coming together a bit more. So then I'm going to hang it on a door, but just show you while I'm out here what it looks like with the wreath lights. And then once we've got it on the door, I might add the odd extra cranberry chain, so I haven't got to transport it. And that'll be it. I can just tuck them hidden somewhere behind at the top. And just throw these. So it's done and in place on its door, and you can see, so I've got my bride, the pomegranate, bridesmaid, the cranberries, gatecrasher, the limes, and then in the end 3 foliage. I've got the viburnum, the rosemary, and well, I call that a foliage because it's sort of green, the hydrangea, and then just wreath lights. I'm just going to finish off this wreath, and you can hang it on a door, but with the pomegranates, which are quite heavy, I think it makes an even better table wreath in a way. So I've put a really chunky red candle in the middle, and I'm just adding a bit more silver birch to make it really twiggy and messy. And you could always hang Christmas decorations from the twigs if you wanted. And so that's it, you know, it is really versatile, either to decorate as a table centre or for your front door. I've got another wreath here which is a much more classic door wreath, and this one is easier to make, which is why I showed you the one with the pomegranates, because the weight of them makes it a bit harder. And for this we've got plums as your bride, and then this beautiful viburnum berry, and this is Viburnum tinus French white, that's the variety. And so that's the gatecrasher, sorry, that's the bridesmaid. So this, the plum is the bride, that's the bridesmaid, and then the orange chili is the gatecrasher. And really the lime here is used as the green. And so for the foliage we've mainly got buried ivy, again Viburnum tinus, and then lime to give it a bit more substance. And so exactly the same system. So started with a moss base, added silver birch to it to strengthen it, then wired the fruit and added the fruit in the zones, those 2 in a triangle of zones. So here you've got it at 6 o'clock, and then a triangle from there, and then just filling in between with the foliage and the berries. And so exactly the same system, but with a very different look.